everyone, my name is Kirsty the Worsty and welcome to my channel. My fiance and I went spring cleaning in our bedroom closet yesterday and I found so many of my summer dresses and clothes. It was almost like I just went shopping for the summer, except it was stuff I already had. It was wonderful. It was like Christmas. Alright guys, so today I want to talk about all of the books that I read in March. I didn't have a super productive reading month. Womp womp. I read 5 books. 3 of those were 4 stars and 2 of them were 3 stars. Everything I read this month was either just, good or okay. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it. So the first book that I want to talk about that I read in March actually took me the entire month of March to read, which is why I have such a pathetically small wrap up for you guys, and that is A Conjuring of Light by V.E. Schwab. I have kind of marathoned this series, I would say. I read the first one in January, I read the second one in February, and I just finished this one in March. It was quite the hunker. It was over 600 pages, which, as you guys know, is a lot for yours truly. I just have a hard time with hunkers. I'm much more of like a short chapter, short book kind of girl, so this definitely took a lot of time for me to read. I'm just so used to having this lightning quick mentality where I go into a book and then 2 days later it's over and then I'm reading another book, and I'm just into that let's go kind of mindset. And this was much slower paced, which is not a bad thing at all. Just a couple things I want to say about this book. I can't go into detail for a plot for you guys because this is actually the finale to the Shades of Magic trilogy. I will tell you that this book is definitely worth a shot. I know some people have a hard time getting into it just because it has a slower pace and it is very character driven. So if you're not really into seeing these dynamic breaking mold characters just take on the world, then this won't be for you. But if you do enjoy, a really interesting character dynamic, really diverse characters, this is really for you. V.E. Schwab is constantly just shattering tropes and stereotypes and just keeps it really fresh, and the twists and turns are always unexpected. Definitely pick this up if you haven't already. It's so spot on. Another thing that I just love about V.E. Schwab's writing that you don't really see a lot is just that it's so thorough. And what I mean by that is, you know how sometimes you read a book and then you finish it and you're like, gee, I wish I knew more about, so-and-so's family life, or, yeah, we never really learned a lot about that character. You cannot say that about this book, in my opinion. I feel like everything is just so fully fleshed out. You get inside of pretty much all of the characters' minds, even the villains, even the gray heroes, the gray villains. There's just, you get into everybody's minds, and it's so interesting. If I had to say something, I probably didn't need to be 600 pages. I did tab it up quite a lot, so it shows you that it was really good, but I just feel like it didn't need, that's Guppy knocking over all of my spices in my spice cabinet, if you were wondering. Yeah. I feel like it probably could have been a 400, 450 page book and we would have had just as much intrigue and interest, but it would just be a little tighter. Other than that though, this series is phenomenal and I could not recommend it higher. Alright guys, the next book I want to talk about in my wrap-up is I Remember Nothing by Nora Ephron. For those of you who don't know, Nora Ephron is the screenwriter for When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle. She wrote a slew of movies in the 80s and 90s, going up through the 2000s, and she just has this really interesting biting wit and a sharp tongue, and she's just very much she's a feminist, she's just a very smart lady, and it's so interesting to read her books. She only wrote 1 novel, which I read last year, and it's called Heartburn. The essays that she wrote were so interesting. It was all about her home life and her work life as a journalist and writing for magazines and how to deal with just life and romance and aging, and it's just such this unique point of view. I listened to the audiobook, and it really makes you feel like you're just listening to stories that she's telling you. It feels like you're sitting in a room with her and she's just telling you these stories, and they are so funny and so interesting and so cool. And I think that it was only a couple hours of an audiobook. I read it in 2 days or something. It's not something we would necessarily pick up if we weren't looking for it, but I would definitely recommend it. I just think it's such a fresh kind of point of view that she has. It almost kind of reminds me of Lena Dunham in a way. I feel like Lena Dunham's like has similar voice to Nora Ephron, the way that they're just so unapologetic and like raw and real about their feelings, and they're very relatable people too, which I think is something that is just so important when you're reading something. So I'd highly recommend it. Next, I have If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo. I just think this book is so important. It's about this trans girl named Amanda who moves into this new school district because she's been going through a lot of like bullying. She's been having a lot of issues going on surrounding her transition. So she moves in with her father, who she hasn't seen in many years. And it's just about her. It's not so much about her journey to transitioning, although there are some flashbacks that deal with that, which I think are really, really good. Meredith brings it up in such a way that it's very relatable to anybody, even if you're not super familiar with, you know, trans people or what they're going through. She also has an author's note at the end that talks about how she came up with Amanda, how Amanda's journey isn't everybody who's trans journey. Meredith Russo is a really smart lady, and that author's note really spoke to me. I almost wish I read it before I read the book, because I thought that her introduction about it, about how she really struggled to make sure that anybody reading this would be able to relate to Amanda, to understand Amanda, and at least kind of see her struggles in a really honest way. I think that this definitely, it should be on like a recommended reading list. I feel like we should be talking about this a lot more than we are. So really good. But however, in a storytelling perspective, I felt like there were a couple things that could have been a little bit stronger, which is unfortunate because I just loved this book so much and thought it was so important. I wish that it was perfect in every way, but I do feel like there was some character attributes that were lacking. Amanda, I thought, was a very, very fleshed out, round character. However, all of the classmates that were around her, I thought were very flat characters. A lot of her friends that she makes in this new school were very flat, and I was having a really hard time telling them apart, even though there was only like 3 or 4 of them. I thought B, who is one of her friends at school, I thought she was a standout, and she had a very different personality, so that was fine. But for the rest, even Graham, who was her love interest, I thought they all kind of fell a little flat. But other than that, this is such an important story, and I hope that this just message spreads and a lot of people read this book, because it's just such an important book to read. I keep saying important, but it really is. Not enough is written on this subject. Not a lot of trans people are highlighted like this, and I just think that it is so, so important to have that exposure to it. So the next book I have is a book that's been talked about so much on BookTube, especially if we're talking about young adult romances. This is like the first book that always comes up. So I finally read it, and that is Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Anna and the French Kiss is about a young girl named Anna who her father kind of forces her to move to this swanky French boarding school, and she meets some friends there. She meets a guy that she likes there, and that's pretty much it. You know, it has a really cool Parisian landscape. The friends are really fun and interesting, and she has her own little quirky personality. It does what it does, and it does it well. It's a really well-crafted story with nice writing and fleshed out characters. I can't pick it apart because it was very strong in what it was. However, myself, I'm usually into stuff that has a little bit more depth to it. You know, I like things with a little more like suspense and thrills and deeper and darker characters, but these characters were all very, you know, they were good people. Nothing really dark was going on here. There was no like villain, you know, but all in all, I gave this 4 stars because I can't say it's bad, because it wasn't bad. It was good. I liked the characters. I liked Anna. But as a genre, it's really not something that I reach for, that traditional like YA romance. But if you're into that and you haven't read this would be perfect for you. If that's what you like, then go for Anna and the French Kiss for sure. The last book I read in March was Nerve by Jeannie Ryan. So I have some mixed feelings about Nerve. I haven't even written a review for it on Goodreads because I keep kind of jumping back and forth on how I feel about it. I rated it 3 stars, and that's because I feel like it was good. I feel like Nerve was good. I feel like it was okay. Obviously, I read it because I wanted to see the movie with Emma Roberts, and because it was $5. But, you know, I will say that I was interested the entire time. There wasn't a time where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's coming. You know, I was interested to see what the different challenges were. If you don't know, Nerve is about an online game where you do dares, and you get money for these dares, and you get prizes for these dares, and they get more and more intense as you go. obviously, I guess. That's basically what the story is about. It follows this young girl named V as she kind of goes through all these challenges. I do feel like a lot of it was just like dumb kid stuff. Like there were times where these kids were doing stuff, and maybe it's just me getting older. Maybe I'm just old. I mean, I'm 25 now. I'm not a teenager anymore. I'm probably about, like 10 years older than these kids, so maybe that's just my age showing. But I did feel like there was a lot of times where I was like, really, V, you're gonna do that for a pair of shoes? All in all, this book was thrilling enough. It was interesting enough, but that's all. Just kind of enough, bare minimum kind of deal. Alright guys, that is all the books that I read in March. Let me know if you read any of these books down below in the comments. Share your thoughts. I'd love to chat with you about it. Other than that, if you haven't got enough of me, you can follow me on all of the social medias. I have Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. I'm Kirsty the Worsty on all of them, except for Twitter. I'm just Kirsty the Worst. So, alright guys, I'll see you next Monday with another video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye!